everyone, and welcome to my first card making video in forever. It has been so long. Forgive my little bit of disjointed thoughts during this video because I made this actually months ago and never got around to editing it. And so I'm just trying to kind of remind myself of all I did when I made it. So I'm using some Paper Smooches stamp sets for this card. I used Birthday Buddies, Surf and Turf, and My Guy. And I stamped these fish images from the sets onto some Copic quality white cardstock, and I used my Brilliance Graphite Black ink. And then I'd heat set it before I even started the video to make sure everything was really dry. Because if you don't let it dry overnight or heat set it, this stuff smears, but it's so nice. And if you can hear it, I don't know if this is picking up the background noise, but I've got the little baby swing going and my little munchkin in the swing. So if you hear a bunch of squeaks and hiccups and that's her. So can't really stick her in another room right now, so she's gonna be kind of a little additional background noise to my videos. So anywho, I'm coloring in, like I said, these little guys with my Copic markers. I'm just gonna list them on the edge of the video here so you guys can see which ones, because again, it's kind of hard to list every color I used when I can't see it, and it's been so long that I kind of forget what order I was going in. But yeah, I kept the color palette pretty similar for all of them just to keep things simpler and well, it just matches better. So as always, just starting with a lighter color. I'm pretty much only using like 2 colors at a time for the blending in that. I'm not going all out and using, 3 or more colors because again, they're very small images, very simple. And like I said, I'm making it for my husband and he doesn't mind, like he appreciates my cards, but he's not going to notice if I go really all out in the coloring and making it fabulous. I'm usually going more for like a cute element and just something kind of thoughtful and fun. So once I've kind of got all these guys colored how I wanted, I did a little bit of fun blending, not a whole lot, to give it a little more dimension. On the littler ones, I just kept it simple. This little orange guy, I did a little bit more using a much lighter and much darker color, and then I just used the medium yellow to kind of blend them together, just to kind of give it a little bit of a different look, even though I'm using all the same colors on all these fish. So once I've got them colored how I wanted them, I trim them out, which I did off camera again, just because I can't get my camera to focus when I trim out images, especially tiny ones like that. So I trim them all out, and then I use one of my Spellbinder circle dies and die cut a circle of white cardstock and then a circle of a really light blue cardstock. And then I just trimmed off the edges on the top and bottom because the whole idea I was going for was to kind of make a fishbowl. So I thought that was kind of to me, I thought I was being quite clever doing this. So for the white piece, because it's supposed to be kind of glass, I just used some lighter blue markers. I used BGO2, 000, and 000, and just along the edges there, just to kind of give it a see-through look, I guess is what I was kind of going for. And then for the blue cardstock, I kind of did the same thing just to give it a little more dimension. But really, you wouldn't even need to use Copic for this. You could just use a bit of sponging and a lighter blue ink, or even the same shade of blue as the cardstock, and you would get like a very similar look. So I just used my Copics though, because they're of course right in front of me. Started the darker blue, working my way with the lighter, and then I just used my Colorless Blender to kind of blend them out, to fade away. And then you can just see as the Colorless Blender dries, it just gives it kind of a softer look. And then I wanted to add a little bit of greenery to the bottom of the fishbowl, so didn't have really like a die cut or anything. I could have used even some green cardstock and just freehand cut, but then instead I just decided to grab a couple of green Copics and just freehand it, because yeah, a couple of wavy lines and you're good to go. So I went with the G07 and then I went in with the G29 just to add a little bit of a darker edge to it, just to give it a little bit of dimension so that it doesn't look like this green blob on the cardstock. So added that, and then I just went back over it again with that G07. And of course her hiccups are getting even louder. Oh, too funny. So once I was done all of that, I wanted to add a few little bubbles. So I grabbed one of the little bubble stamps from one of the sets, and then I just inked them up with, this is Memento Bahama Blue ink. So I had no rhyme or reason, I was just stamping them randomly onto the little fish bowl, so just like so. And then once I stamped them, I thought I'd go a little bit extra and make them look even a teeny bit more realistic, so I just grabbed the same light blue Copics again and added that to them just to give them a little more dimension. which doesn't really show up a whole lot, but in person you can kind of see it a little bit more. So I just did the lighter blue and then added a teensy bit of the darker blue, just like so. So then once I was done with that, I was just using my ATG adhesive to adhere that to the white piece of cardstock, which took a teeny little bit of fiddling just to line up the straight lines on the top and bottom there. So just a little bit of shuffling before pressing it down together. So then once I was done with that, I wanted to add just a tiny bit more dark blue to the bottom area of the glass, as I'm making finger quotations and I'm doing a voiceover. Oi. Can you tell it's been a really, really long time since I've edited one of my card making videos? So anyway, once I was done that, I cut a small piece of a dark brown cardstock just to kind of give something for the fishbowl to sit on, basically. So I adhered that to my little card front, which is just some craft cardstock. And then I adhered the bowl over that, and it was just force of habit to cut the edge off. But looking back now, like at the time it didn't bother me, but now looking back, I don't know why I did that. I think it was just the mentality of, because I always have to fit usually my cards in envelopes, and it's rare that I leave things hanging off the edges because they won't fit in a standard envelope. But because I was making this for Tim, I didn't have to do that, and it would have looked better if I hadn't. So now I really regret cutting off that edge. I just didn't even consider, like, didn't even think about it. It was immediate just reaction to flip over the card front and cut it off. So yeah, if someone's doing something similar, I wouldn't cut that off and would just leave it hanging over the edge. It would look better. So anyway, I cut a couple of just scraps of white cardstock and then stamped the sentiments onto it with obviously the VersaFine ink, and then adhered that. And then it just so happened that the bubbles I'd stamped worked perfectly for each little fish. So I positioned them kind of how I wanted them. And then I just used my Tombow Mono Multi Glue to adhere them. And then that little bit that oozed out, I was just able to rub off with my finger before it dries. So just quick fix with that kind of thing. And then adhered the little card front to my white cardstock card base. So once that was done, I went on to the inside of the card. So I just had a little strip of the craft cardstock left over. So I stamped the last part of the sentiment with the VersaFine Onyx Black, my go-to black ink for sentiments because it's so black and rich. I've already talked about my favorite black inks. I have a video on that, so you can just look it up if you haven't seen it, because I explain why I choose certain inks and what I use them for and all that fun stuff. So adhered that, and then I just adhered a strip of the same blue I used for the fishbowl. And then I stamped the little fishing rod, and again I used the VersaFine for this just because it dries way faster than the Brilliance. And so I stamped that on the inside, adhered the last little fish that I had stamped and colored, and then I just added a tiny bit of color to the fishing rod with Copics. Since I wasn't doing any like blending or major coloring, it was fine with this VersaFine ink. But if I was actually going to do some coloring and blending, I wouldn't have used that ink because it would have smeared really bad. So as a finishing touch, I added a teensy bit of crystal stickles to the little main fishies, however you say it. It's late at night right now and my brain is starting to shut down. So forgive me, this is just a horrible voiceover, horrible video. Anyway, I added the stickles to the fish and to the little bit of seaweed, and then I'm using my Ranger Glossy Accents and added it to the eyes and the scales. And then you'll see in the picture at the end, I actually added it to the top and the bottom of the fishbowl too, but I did that off camera. And as always, there will be a link below to my blog post with links to all the supplies used. And I gotta go because I got a fussy baby. So again, apologies for this crazy first video back into this, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!